Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to tonight's Bible study. Listen, you know what I say. If you have not gone from Genesis to Revelations in your lifetime, or maybe it's been a while, this is where you want to be this year because we're going to just keep covering the scripture from Genesis to Revelation, but we're doing it in chronological order. So tonight I'm gonna jump right in. I was going to just kind of glaze over this. I want to say good evening to Flirt. Come on in here. My friends are in the house, as well as I see Crystal Method. So much love coming to you. I appreciate you for being in the house tonight. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read. We're going to talk about Dinah's defilement because a lot of times, so many of these areas we do not address. And I want to kind of give it a little time. It may be a short session if you all don't talk to me, if it seems like you guys are uncomfortable with the text and what we're talking about. But basically, we're going to deal with rape, and we're going to deal with the rape of Jacob's daughter, Dinah. And maybe you've never heard this story before. I don't know. But I'm going to be in the 34th chapter, I believe, of Genesis. And we're going to cover it. I was just going to go over it real briefly and then move on to Jacob. But I'm sorry, to Joseph. But I think what I want to do tonight is to go ahead and allow ourselves to have this conversation because there are some social constructs here that need to be talked about. And I know it's not always the most comfortable thing to do, but hey, we're not here for comfort. We're here to learn and we're here to have some discussion. So if you want to talk to me, don't feel limited tonight. I'm going to predominantly read the scripture and then I'm going to give you my points and highlights, and it may or may not agree with yours. So this is where I say I'm going to be talking from a womanist theologian perspective. I'm a womanist theologian is all about equity and fairness for everybody. So I'll be looking at it from a couple of different angles. You may agree, you may not agree. That's okay. But that's why I'm inviting you to have dialogue as we go through this session on tonight. And then I think that's all we're going to cover this evening, and then we'll give it a rest. But as we get to Genesis 34, and again, this may not be a familiar concept, story, or passage of scripture for some because it's very obscure. You don't usually hear people talk about it. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, and also the daughter of Jacob, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. Now remember, they're coming back home. Remember, Jacob has gotten his stuff and he's headed back. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to have been done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife. And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father, and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye say unto me. But give me this damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully. Now note that. The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully and said, because he defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto him, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young men deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, these men are peaceable with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised, shall not their cattle and not their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearken all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of the city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore. Now remember, they circumcised themselves, so we were literally saying they are in pain. When they were sore, that the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, and I want to address some things. So now the scripture, and people typically will talk about this as the defilement of Dinah. So let's look at a couple of things. So we're looking at the fact that they're unmarried. So that creates a problem in our perspective of Shechem having, as he said, loved this woman and just had to have her and took her. Now, the part of the taking implies that there was a rape that occurred against her wishes. Now, even in that, there's debate and discussion about whether or not there could have potentially been consent, because he seems like he's totally taken with her. We don't know what the situation was as far as whether or not she was drawn to him, but it still doesn't negate the fact that they weren't married. It doesn't negate the fact that they were of different blood, so of different nationality, of different ethnicity. Now, this becomes the problem. Because ultimately there is a lot of debate amongst theologians. Now, again, I already addressed how they felt about the fact that they were not married and he took her. And so we have in this conversation a lot of different pieces that moving parts that are going on. Now, a problem that does arise, again, whether or not she was consenting or not, it definitely says he took her and they lay together, and that was that. But the greater implication when we talk about the defilement tends to lean toward the difference in their ethnicity and the difference in their cultures. So, as you recall, they bring up the issue of circumcision. I want to go back and talk about the attitude that Shechem had towards Dinah. He said he loved her, he thought she was beautiful, and he took her. But additionally, now let's be real. This is 2025. This is 2025, and there's nothing new under the sun. There very easily could have been a mutual attraction between Dinah and Shechem. All right. And we don't know. We don't have any insight to that. All we know is that it was considered a defilement. But more than not, theologians tend to lean towards the idea that the defilement, yes, he did take her. So I'm not trying to minimize that. Again, whether or not there was an issue of consent, this is conversation that goes on. Now, just to get straight into the point, deep down and dirty, y'all know that sometimes we've been out there and seen something that looked good, and it was both ways. It wasn't just one way or the other. Hello. So even in the event that they were not married, it is not beyond comprehension that Dinah may have found Shechem attractive, and they may have come together in what was not a lack of consent. Because the greater issue tends to be that the differences between the nations. Now, mind you, Shechem then, after he has had sex with her, Shechem goes to his father and says, Father, I love her. I've got to have her. This is the woman that I want. She's beautiful. She's, everything that he says. And he says, I'll pay the dowry. Now, we all know what a dowry is. Whatever they ask, I will not hold it back. I love this woman and I want her to be mine. And so even the Bible indicates that Shechem is even more honorable than his father's house. So there is something about Shechem's energy that causes the conversation about whether or not this may have been a consensual situation between himself and Dinah as to how all of this came about. Now, so then Shechem's father basically goes to Jacob and says, listen, my son loves your daughter. We'll pay whatever the dowry, we'll give whatever you ask, we'll do whatever you ask us to do. It's just at this point that my son is in love with your daughter. Now, notice Jacob's energy is very different than Jacob's sons as far as Simeon and Levi. So initially, Jacob is having a conversation with Shechem's father about whether or not they can make a covenant or an agreement between them. He's not coming at him with rage. He's not. Now, it did displease him. Now, don't get me wrong. Jacob was displeased, but Jacob does not have the same energy that Simeon and Levi come with when they find out. And so Levi and Simeon are out in the field. And some way or another, word got back to them that Dinah had been defiled. So they come back from the field hot and on fire. So now, mind you, they come back to Jacob having negotiations with them about give us your daughters, we'll marry your daughters, stay here, and there's enough land for all of us, stay here and you can prosper. So there doesn't seem to be the rage and the anger, even though Jacob is disappointed. Now, so this is where theologians tend to go with that, and this is a hard pill for many people to swallow, but that the issue was more so about the difference of their ethnicities and their background as the defilement, more so than the fact that Dinah and Shechem got together. So this becomes a lot of the conversation. We see some wrong on both sides. Now, I will say again, Shechem seems like he comes to both his father and then mans up and goes to Jacob and said, I want your daughter. At the end of the day, folks, let's not play retarded. Many have had sex outside of marriage. Hello. Many have had sex outside of marriage. I can't really speak to because Dinah being, come on now, stay lifted. You know I'm telling the truth. The Bible with women being so invisible in that time, because we're talking about, even look at what's going on. Shechem's talking about, I want her. Shechem's dad is coming to Jacob and saying, my son wants her. Then Jacob is talking about, for everybody's talking for Dinah except for Dinah. Okay, so let's address that elephant in the room. We don't know what really the nature is because poor Dinah has no voice in this whole entire story. She's never given a voice. She's never given voice. So we have that unclear element to this story because chattel. She was just chattel. They're bargaining, they're negotiating, they're talking this and that and the other, and Dinah has no voice. But I will say this, from looking at the way the story is told, Shechem looks like, to me, Shechem looks like he's trying to be an honorable young man. Yes, we had sex before marriage. Yes, I'm not of her ethnicity and her nationality, but I love this woman. And whatever we got to do, Father, whatever we got to do, Jacob, he comes to them and mans up to both of them. Now, these are the problems that I have even with the story as the story continues, because here we have when Simeon and Levi come back. Now, this is where I keep saying the pot calling the kettle black, because you want to talk about the anger that you have towards them having defiled Dinah. And because Dinah has no voice, I'm going to keep saying that. I told you I'm a womanist theologian, and so I'm going to bring up that point. But I'm going to try to bring up all the points that I can as to the issues with this whole story. Since Dinah has no voice, we don't know what is actually going on. I don't know. Two big brother problems, Crystal Method. Big brother problems. I don't know too many men that are going to rape and do bodily harm to somebody and then turn around and say, I want to marry her. She's the most beautiful thing. She's everything I ever wanted. This man is head over heels about this woman. So this is where, because listen, there's nothing new under the sun. Y'all know when we get hot and bothered and we get to sweating and looking and all of that, listen, things happen. Things happen. So at the end of the day, you just don't, for me, I don't walk away with the energy that this young man meant to do her harm. He just saw somebody that he wanted, and there you have it. Cassandra, if Dinah had a chance to use her voice, wouldn't it be there'd be some clarity to this story. There would really be some clarity to this story. And stay lifted. I just don't see somebody that's going to abuse and misuse and beat up, if that were the case, and rape somebody, then turn around and say, I want to marry her. Maybe I'm missing it. But when I read that story, I don't get that energy from it. What I do identify is that the thing that they bring up, number one, is the intermarrying between the groups. And that is frowned upon. Because remember, we went all the way back to Rebecca, when Rebecca sent Jacob away to Laban's house with all of their lying selves. And she says, don't let him take one of the wives of the daughter ahead, lest I die. So they have this energy, and this is why I decided to stop and slow down and have this conversation, because it needs to be addressed. I feel like this is where many of the roots of racism lie. Y'all can agree with me or not. That's why I said tonight, this will be more of, I'm going to share with you my perspective, but you don't have to agree with me, because I know so many sermons have been preached about not intermingling and intermarrying with the strange folks. But this is exactly what racist people say. Y'all not ready for me. This is exactly what racist people say. And these are exactly the scriptures that they utilize to drive that point home of being able to be racist, as if my people are better than your people. Ain't nobody's people better than anybody else's people. Because let's look at both sides. When we look at Shechem's family, he said, the Lord is my shepherd. I see what I want. Come on, truck. That's what he said. That's what he said. And so at the end of the, not only was that what I want, even after he had lain with her, he said, this is where my heart is, and I'm not trying to go anybody. I'm not trying to go anywhere else. This is what I want. So, again, before we pass a whole bunch of judgment here, I want y'all to put it in 2025. Because some of us have seen some folk that rocked our world and rocked our boat, and we hooked up and locked up and everything else. And at the end of the day, this man wanted to marry her. He was very genuine in that. He wasn't trying to just get the goods and then go on his merry way. He wanted this woman to be his wife. Now, there's a problem on both sides, because we have basically Simeon and Levi, who come with this pretension of self-righteousness, if you will. Not so, because we circumcise over here. And unless all of y'all gonna be circumcised, and let me just stop right there and let me defer, because some people are going to get offended because you are so committed to what you believe to be right and wrong. And so I don't want to offend. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I just want people to think outside the box, and I want you to think with a bigger picture. Why do I think a story like this is in the Bible? The same reason I think that God gave us the law in the Old Testament, to show us it wasn't going to work. The New Testament said it was never to be that the blood of bulls and goats, none of that was going to work for salvation. So I'm going to give you this to let you see it's not going to work. I feel the same way about these, what I consider to be racist and misogynistic stories that are in the Bible as well. God shows us different elements and aspects of it to show us it's not going to work. I don't care how you got your attitude. I don't care how you got your this, that, and the other. Because at the end of the day, we're all of the same blood. At the end of the day, we all have issues. At the end of the day, one race, ethnicity, or group is not better than another. So I don't espouse to that. I'm going to just tell you. Now, you can cling to it if that's where you are. God bless you, and we'll still be friends, and I'll still love you. I don't espouse to that. So at the end of the day, I look at this and I say, so they came, I'm going to repeat it because I know this might sound a little heavy, a little harsh or whatever, but I'm going to repeat, to me, Simeon and Levi were self-righteous, and they were pretentious in that we circumcise over here. And unless all of y'all gonna circumcise, this shall not stand. But they had a murderous heart. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? You want to be self-righteous, that all of us have a covenant in the flesh. We circumcise over here, but you got murder in your heart. Okay, help me understand it, please. You so religious. And you're so caught up in the law and what your covenant is with your God, and you don't have that. So God forbid, because that's not ever going to be where you're going to intermingle, not having the covenant in the flesh, circumcise yourselves. So Shechem says, okay. Okay. Shechem and his father goes and talks to the rest of the men of the city and says, look, the only way they're going to dwell with us is if we circumcise ourselves. That's what they've given us. That's what we're going to have to do. So they paid the price, Crystal Method. Let me look up and see what Cassandra said. Would Dinah have to expose one of her angered siblings for anything? They had severe race and rage issues, not to mention murderous spirits. The father's also all the way in the left field. Come on, you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to lay this out here so we can stop being so caught up with the way we preach some of these sermons that just as off as two left shoes. So here we have racism. Come on. We have racism. We have an idea that my faith base is better than yours. So, and again, I'm going to say, why do I think these scriptures are in there? To show us it does not work and it's no good. Because while you're running around here talking about being proud and patting yourself on the back for circumcision, you get these men to agree in covenant. Now, let me get the other side, because the only one that I really want to say out of all of them, including on both sides, was Shechem, because Shechem got the goods. Okay, yes, he did. We don't know whether it was with Dinah's consent or not, because Dinah doesn't have a voice. That's an issue. Now, Shechem's like, whatever I have to do. Now, let's look at Shechem's dad. Shechem's dad convinces the men to go through with it, because he says, if we do this, then we get their cattle, we get that. He starts looking at the wealth. He's not worried. He ain't worried about Dinah. He ain't worried about nothing except for how we going to get our hands on the wealth. So what do I see out of Shechem's daddy? You're greedy. And your whole purpose in consenting is because you want to get your hands in the greedy pot. We fitting to eat, Crystal Method. We fitting to eat. You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? That's how he gets the men to agree to the circumcision. So his heart ain't right either. So on both sides of the coin, he's an opportunist, Joanna G. So at the end of the day, we got all of this going on both sides. And the only one that seems halfway decent to me out of this story, and y'all can agree with me or not, is Shechem. And I'm still going to say, for somebody to have raped somebody, beat them down and this and that and the other, the story doesn't sound like that to me. And the defilement is more than likely, I agree, on the side of many theologians that believe that the issue is the intermarrying and the intermingling of the two together. I agree with that. That's my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You can feel like that's as wrong as two left shoes. Let every man be persuaded in his own mind. But listen, Shechem did a whole lot to get Dinah for somebody that's out here raping women. I'm just saying. Y'all, again, you can agree, disagree, doesn't matter. It does say she was defiled, and for most theologians, I won't say for many theologians, let me put it that way, that defilement involved the intermingling and the interaction between an uncircumcised and a circumcised, and the difference between those that were under the covenant and those that were not. Now, so this is the plot that Simeon and Levi hatch after they tell these people, all you got to do is circumcise yourselves. And you use the things of God to do dastardly deeds. Now, that's not any different than what we see going on today. You use the things of God to do dastardly deeds. All right? Their heart wasn't right to begin with. And the fact that they fixed their lips to say, except ye circumcised, because that's the only way we can come together, because no uncircumcised foreskin, anybody that's got foreskin, they cannot, just absolutely positively cannot. So they wait till all these men circumcise themselves to come into this agreement that they've come to. Then Simeon and Levi, after they're wounded and can't fight, go take their swords and kill all of the Hittites. Shechem, his father, and all the men of the city. Now, if you think that is a move of God, I just can't understand it. That almost sounds like some KKK stuff. Y'all ain't buying what I'm selling. That sounds just like some KKK stuff. And that's where they come up with these scriptures and come out and with ethnic cleansing and maltreatment and abusing and taking your stuff, burning your house down, burning your crops, running you off, and then taking it over and say, oh, I got the spoils of the land and the Lord sent me out greater than I came in. Quit lying. You racist. And what you did was wrong. Now, y'all don't have to agree with me at all, but I'm calling a spade as I see it. So at the end of the day, this is the kind of energy that evolves from that kind of thinking. This is the kind of energy, Rebecca, oh, please go to my brother Laban's house so you can marry of our people, lest I die. Well, go ahead and die. Listen, lay on out, stretch, because your people are just as mean, nasty, surly, and wicked as the other people. What are you talking about? Now, yes, you do have a covenant with God, and there is something that God is doing. However, we're not going to minimize or stretch. Do you hear me? Stay lifted. Just go on and stretch. Because at the end of the day, your hearts have so many places that are wicked and deceitful. If that wasn't a deceitful move, I just don't know. You wait till these men are utterly wounded, because this is what you asked for. This is what you demanded. And when they gave you what you demanded, you came in and killed them graveyard dead. As the line says in the Wizard of Oz, and they're not only merely dead, they're really quite sincerely dead. You came in and killed them. Now, if that, and even Jacob, come on here. Jacob had to say to Simeon and Levi, what have you done? Because now you're going to have all the people in the surrounding areas mad at me, and they're going to come against me in war. You done went in here, killed all their men, took their wives and children hostages, taken all of their cattle, all their livestock, but you want to talk about how holy you are because you are circumcised. No, ma'am, no, sir. Dinah couldn't use her voice, but she had the whippoorwill against all the crazy things going on around there. You better talk. Lord, help us all. Hot heads, Crystal Method. Hot heads. Come on, Cassandra. Y'all better talk to me in here. Now, this becomes problematic text. And this is why I said, so many times we have to stop. If you ever want to start a journey in liberation theology, the first person I would recommend is that you read Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman, Thurman. He was one of the first black teachers coming out with liberation theology. Because listen, these are the nuances of energy that's interwoven into the scripture that will take you straight into racism. It'll take you straight into supremacy. It will take you straight into my thoughts and my religion is better than your religion. And I'm talking about even amongst Christians. I'm not even trying to go out to other faith-based groups. We can't get along with, listen, Baptists can't stand Methodists. Methodists can't stand Church of God in Christ. Church of God in Christ can't stand AME. AME can't stand. You know what I'm saying? All of these are Christians, but we all have this energy that says, I'm better than you. And the way that I believe and the way that I know God and the way that I worship God is better than the way that you worship God. And you straight on your way to hell with gasoline draws. I'm telling the truth, stay lifted. And this is where this energy comes from. And we have to finally buckle down and actually begin to look and dissect some of these texts and identify that many of these texts, why do I feel like they're put in here? For God to show us it ain't gonna work. It didn't work back then. It's not gonna work now. Come on here. But we're going to heaven anyhow. Stay lifted. I'm talking about it, Cassandra, because this is exactly where we draw from these types of scriptures, and then we get our interpretations, and we feel sanctimonious. We feel self-righteous. We feel like ain't nobody knowing God but me. Nobody knows God but us, and you have to know him my way. You have to serve him my way, and the rest of y'all are clueless. But you got murder in your heart. Not only murder in your heart, you murdered the people. It wasn't just in your heart, you acted it out. Am I talking to anybody? I hope y'all see the picture I'm trying to paint here today. So this is an element of why I believe that some of these texts we have to go back and revisit. And again, my perspective on it, just like the law couldn't save us. When Moses gave them the law, it wasn't going to save them people. And at the end of the day, if you do the law and your heart is far from it, i.e., if you circumcise your flesh, but you still got murder in your heart, like Simeon and Levi, what good is that? You're a murderer, sir. You're circumcised, but you're a circumcised murderer. What are we saying here? What are we doing? So this kind of text really needs to be revisited in 2025. It really needs to have been revisited long before now. But again, Howard Thurman, James Cone, Cone, these are some very profound liberation theologists. Go back and read some of that. Listen, I'm telling you, it will bless your mind to begin a liberation journey, because these are the types of things that we preach from our pulpits, and it's bondage to us. We teach and preach our own bondage. I said what I said, and I'll add to it before I take it back. Because we get so caught up in the legalism, but I'm going to stress that till the cows come home tonight. The legalism is that you must be circumcised, but the reality is you who are demanding circumcision, you, sir, are a circumcised murderer. Be clear on that point. And Dinah still doesn't have a voice. Dinah still doesn't have a voice. Now, that may be a little tense for some. And if you can't digest what I just said, throw it out. If you cannot deal with what I just put in words and articulated from my point of view, and I'm going to say it again, from my point of view, you don't have to see it from my point of view. But please explain it to me. Please explain this text to me and make it make sense. Please. And at the end of the day, I feel for Jacob. And then going to come back and talk about, they said, should you deal with our sister as a harlot? Well, you're a murderer. And this man was trying to make it right. I'm just self-righteous. Should you deal with our sister? If you really were concerned about your sister, number one, you'd give her a voice. Number two, you would have done things very differently than the way that you did, because not only did you disrespect your sister, you disrespected your father. Y'all ain't buying what I'm saying. Listen, Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, I just want to go back, and I'm getting ready to jump out of here, so you all put any comments you want to in here. This is the story of Dinah and the defilement of Dinah. Again, my perspective is definitely different than the way we typically hear it preached. When you hear it preached, because most people have never heard this story. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me. and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Now, at the end of the day, there was a covenant with Jacob. There was a covenant with Abraham and Isaac even before Jacob. And at the end of the day, even though I'm sure that's what he was feeling at the beginning, having seen them go out here and kill these people, take the children and the wives captive, wrong, wrong, wrong. Having taken all of their livestock and everything they had as a spoil, wrong, with your self-righteous selves. Even though that's how Jacob is feeling right now, knowing that his sons did wrong. That's the end of that story. Knowing that his sons did wrong, the blessing of the Lord is still no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Even if you created the circumstances. Am I talking to anybody in here? And so I want us to look at this story, but please see it from a full perspective. See it from a panoramic view. Stop seeing it from this narrow way that we've taught it. Stop. Unless you believe in your heart, God really wants all of us to be separated, and we're not to intermingle, and we're not to intermarry, and we all come from the same flesh. So I don't espouse to that. You know, we had miscegenation. That's what they called interracial marriages back in the day. And you know, they had books on the law, and some of the states still really technically have books on the law against miscegenation. You could not have an interracial marriage. It was against the law. And at the end of the day, they use these types of scriptures to support that way of thinking. And my answer to that is no. No. No, ma'am, no, sir. Come on here, Crystal Method. No, ma'am, no, sir. And then you want to get up and preach and spew this same stuff because the Bible said? You want to have that same energy and that same attitude? What's Kendall Rishon? My dog's better than your dog. No, your dog ain't better than mine. It's a dog. I don't care if they do eat Kendall Rishon. I don't care if they do get circumcised. I don't care if they do keep the law. Listen, at the end of the day, a dog is a dog and a human being is a human being. Am I talking to anybody? And nobody is better than anybody else. I don't care how you cut it. So these types of energies that we find, and Rebecca takes my goat every time. Lest I die if they take wives of the daughters of Heth. And your granddaughter is a thief, or your daughter-in-law rather. No, that's your niece and daughter-in-law is a thief. And as one reason told us the other night about Leah and Rebecca, they was pimping poor Jacob out like a piece of meat. And I'm not even going to go back on that tangent again. Pimping him out like a piece of meat. And there's nothing new under the sun, and the same things are still happening yet today. All right. I'm going to leave that right there. But definitely, as we look at Jacob, and this is the insolence and the boldness and the refusal to hear when they come back talking about, should they deal with our sister as a harlot? Well, so now I will say this, because Dinah doesn't have a voice, and we don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know if she was raped or if she was consenting. But at the end of the day, Shechem, his nose was open. Y'all don't know nothing about that terminology. Y'all don't know nothing about your nose being wide open. His nose was wide open. You can get I-35, I-95, I-55, I-75, 169. You can get everything through Shechem's nose because his nose was open, baby. Oh, Jesus. It's giving very much the original love in hip hop. Come on here, Dalen. You better talk to me. It's the generation of your slipping showing. Come on. Come on. I'm just saying. And at the end of the day, I want us to rethink. I want us to rethink our theology. You don't have to agree the way and agree and believe the way that I believe. I do want to challenge you to at least take the time to take the points that I've made into consideration and understand how that works into your theology. Because 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4. 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4. And just because you follow the law of circumcision doesn't make you right. Listen, truck driver, so wide until a drop of water will drown him. His nose is wide open. You know these young folk don't know nothing about your nose being. They don't. That listen. That's I retched way back and got some terminology they probably know nothing about. But his nose was honey. Woo. So I appreciate you all tonight. I hope that something that I've said has at least made you think, whether you agree or not. You don't have to agree. But I wish you at least think about it because again, this is the same kind of energy that racists have used down through the years and supremacists have used down through the years straight out of scripture. And my answer is still no. My answer is still no. It's not going to fly. It's not going to fly with me. I want to say hello to Flirt. Come on in here, my brother. It's good to see you in the room. Okay, let me see. I'll jump down. So much love and blessings to you, Flirt. Thank you for being here. Coming on down. Glad to have you back in the Lion's Den. Crystal Method, I love you, sis. Coming on, truck driver. I really appreciate you. Phoenix System, come on in the room. So much mad love to you. Stay lifted. Come on, girl. I love you. That's the lifter of my head. Coming on down, Cassandra Isaiah. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Let me see. Who else do I have? I want to make sure I got everybody. Cassandra Dalen. You know I love you. And at the end of the day, Joanna G, 98, come on in here. Thank you for sharing and for everybody that's come in and had something to say in tonight's conversation. I appreciate you. Once more and again, you don't have, I hope I've got everybody. I don't want to miss anybody. I hope that something has at least made you think. We're not one reason. Come on in here. There's the Bishop of Twitch. So much love to you. We're not without a brain where people just thank you. I'm glad you're able to chat. I'm glad that you're here. You're always here whether you're here or not. I hope you know that from my perspective. Your presence is always with me. I hope that you all are able to really think about this. We have a brain. We should be able to process. I don't have to take just what Pastor said and what Mama them said and what Auntie them said. I want you all to think about it because again, I'm going to say this is that same energy that racism has thrived from. And we need to rethink it. We really, really, really need to rethink it. And that's my personal opinion. But if we want this world to be healed, I just don't feel like we can continue on with this kind of energy, with this kind of thought processing, and with this kind of attitude one toward another. So just think about it. Give it some thought. Chew on it. If it's bones to you, spit it out. If it's substance to you, swallow it and think about it some more and spread the word. Because we do need to have a different perspective on what we're preaching and teaching from the Word of God. Grateful for your panoramic perspective. I hope we can have verbal discussions on this and some of our... Absolutely. I would love to have that. As a matter of fact, I've been looking at how we can potentially do that. I think I can get 50 into cameras in Discord at no cost to anyone, because I'm always looking at a way that we can do it where there's no cost and everybody can be engaged. For those that would like to, and it may not be, necessary to have that many, but I'm trying to get it so that anybody that wants to come in and talk, I know that is my ultimate, is to actually get us in a place where we can have verbal discussions, see one another, and talk through some of these studies, because it needs to be hashed out. It needs to be talked through. And it's not only my perspective. That's why I want to say, come on, Crystal Method. That's why I want to say I appreciate everybody that's here. I appreciate those of you that comment in the chat section, because it allows me to have additional thought and additional input from other people. Even if you disagree with me, put it in the chat. I have no problem. We can walk hand in hand without seeing eye to eye. I say that all the time. And as a matter of fact, can I tell you the best way, in my opinion, the best way to hash something out is to have people that have different opinions. I'm not looking for yes people. I'm not looking, I say something, something else strikes you, say it. I give hey, was it one reason the other night, as a matter of fact, and we were talking, and I was bringing in the womanist theological perspective, and he brought in a point about some men, about the brethren, and it was an excellent point. It was a valid point. That expands us to a greater fullness, I believe. And listen, this is what my father, my uncle, and I used to do, and we would banter back and forth, not because we were in arguments, but I felt like each of us would take a different position, and sometimes it wasn't even necessarily that was my position, but I'm going to argue the other position. Why? Because I want to hash out, I want to flesh out some more truth than everybody agreeing with one another. So, I'm all for that. It helps us with further life application. Come on here, stay lifted. Yes, ma'am, because I can't type fast. You can't type fast enough, truck. Plus, when I'm on the road, you can talk. I got you. So, I'm going to look more into that, and then we'll set up a time and figure out how we may do the regular on here. And then for those that want to go deeper, we can pull over into the Discord channel where we can see one another and talk freely and have more conversation. I'm definitely leaning towards that and want that as well. Stay lifted. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. All right. I hope this has helped you all tonight, and we'll come back tomorrow. Joseph, I will start on Joseph tomorrow, but I felt it in my spirit that I did not want to overlook and bypass Dinah and not give her story the time and the energy that it deserves, so we can rethink some of our theology. All right. Thank you for bearing with me tonight. I appreciate every last one of you that's in the room. And for those that are not in my chat, but you're just listening and auditing, thank you for being here as well, because your presence is felt and your presence is appreciated. All right. I love you, and we will come back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel, as they used to say on Batman. And I always like to close the night. Peace for your journey. Have a good night.